No matter if points are gained or points are lost, there will be much to discuss. For analysis regarding tonight's Winnipeg Jets game, here are Dave Manouk, Ezra Ginsburg, and your host, Drew Mindell. The Illegal Curve post-game show starts now.
Good afternoon, Winnipeg. Good afternoon, Manitoba. For all those joining us from the bluegrass of Kentucky to the flatlands of Manitoba, we say good afternoon, universe, and welcome to the Illegal Curve post-game show with the hardest working man in sports entertainment. Well, entertainment questionable. Sports media, let's just say, Dave Manouk. I am your host, Drew Mindell, here to discuss the Winnipeg Jets 4-2 victory. At least I think it was 4-2. Was it 5-2? Was it 4-2? 4-2 was the final
I already
answer.
hit send on the tweet, Drew. So as far as we're concerned, it was 4-2.
There you go. 4-2 victory over the Minnesota Wild. The first of two straight games against these Central Division rivals, and the first game between these two teams this year certainly lived up to the billing. Dave, you had emotion as you would expect. You had a sold out crowd in downtown Winnipeg, which was great to see. And for those of you who cheer for the Winnipeg Jets, you saw a victory to end the home portion of the schedule for 2023. Mahalo to you and welcome home.
Thank you, Drew. Aloha, as they say.
Yes.
And it's good to be back in Manitoba. As I was tweeting, I knew it was time to return when my Uber driver to the airport was named Brandon. And I said, oh, actually, he said, where are you from? And I said, Canada. He said, where specifically? I said, Winnipeg. And he pointed at his name on the Uber. I said, Brandon, yeah. And he goes, named after Brandon, Manitoba. So
did you, I mean, I saw your tweet to that effect, and it was an interesting tweet, but there's got to be more on the bone for me to chew on there. I have additional, like, were his parents from Brandon? Was he conceived in Brandon? Like,
I was hoping
what was going on?
I was hoping that it would spur people to come and join the show, where invariably we would end up discussing this, as we do tend to focus on minutia in this instance. And no, it turned out that his family was from Manitoba. He had aunts and uncles here. So he was very familiar with our province, but he was a born and bred Hawaiian. So it was kind of neat to have that connection as I returned home.
There you go. That's a funny one. It reminds me of a story. We're already digressing before we even started the post-game show, so we're going to be in for a good one. It reminds me of a story. Laura and I, the reason I wasn't on the Saturday show this morning is Laura and I spent last night in Lexington. We left the kids with the grandparents, and we went to the Kentucky basketball game and then stayed in a hotel in Lexington. And when we got married in Lexington 12 years ago, we were talking to not the wedding planner, but the person we were dealing with at one of the hotels that we were dealing with. And he turned out that he had a family cottage on an island in Lake of the Woods. So he was very familiar with Winnipeg as well, because that is where he would frequently fly into every summer to go to the family cottage in Lake of the Woods. So, you never know when you're going to make connections, and it is a very small world, as the cliche goes. So there you go. You had your Brandon connection, and of course, we have our Kentucky Lake of the Woods Winnipeg connection as well.
And I know we want to talk about the Jets and Wild game. It was a fantastic game, and folks, don't worry, we won't be spending too much time. But if I get a chance to talk about my Baba Tootsie, I'm always going to use it as an opportunity to talk about her. So quickly, Drew. Yes. My aunt once called. It was my Baba's 70th birthday, and my Baba, as most Babas I think are, some Zetas, was a huge fan of Young and the Restless.
Yes.
So my aunt called California, called the Young and the Restless. She wanted to get some 8x10s or something by the various folks on that show to autograph it for my Baba or do something for my Baba. And so she phoned the Young and the Restless studios or whatever in California, and the lady answers the phone and says, "Hi, Mom, what's up?" My aunt thinks, "Hi, Mom, what's up?" And the lady goes, "Are you calling from Winnipeg?" She's like, "Yeah." She's like, "Well, my mom's in Winnipeg, and she's the only number that ever calls me from that one. So I just assumed it was her." Anyways, there's my random connections, but I had to mention about my Baba. Sorry, had to throw it out there.
There you go. That was well worth it. The random stories that we usually come up with here on this post-game show never cease to amaze. But yes, there you go. Isha boy Bruce, you're right. Victor Newman was a legendary bad guy. If you are a Y and R fan, I'm not sure if it's still on the air. I mean, somebody else.
I think it is actually. It is. Okay. I'm pretty sure it is, and I'm pretty sure if you ever want to be an actor and have longevity, just be in a soap opera, because 99% of the time, the ones that were in it 30 years ago, first of all, they don't look like they've aged at all. And they're still on the show.
I got Spency. This Jets game roundup is really coming together.
Hey, Drew and I haven't been together in like 10 days, so we're just
Seriously.
this is just bringing it all together.
This is the longest Dave and I have been apart for. You guys are lucky that if we get into any of the goals of today, if the Betway game recap starts before 6 o'clock Eastern time, which is an hour and 10 minutes from now, then we'll be in good company.
There you go.
Yeah. Anyways, a very entertaining game in downtown Winnipeg today. The Jets and the Wild, two teams that certainly don't like each other. And I'll give credit to Joe Pascucci, who joined me for the post-game show. What day was that? I think it was Wednesday. The days are blending together, I'll be honest. On Wednesday, he's the one, as we were wrapping up the post-game show after the Jets and the Blackhawks, that mentioned the Ryan Hartman factor. And that had slipped my mind, going back, because it's sort of weird that it's December 30th and these two divisional rivals haven't yet played each other. So there were, you never really had an opportunity to get any closure on that. And you certainly felt, nobody thought Hartman, which I sort of was surprised about. But, you certainly, these two teams, it doesn't take much for them to dislike each other and for them to get the hate on with each other. And you saw that today in what I thought was a pretty entertaining hockey game. Minnesota is a team that I would describe as better than their record. I know that they had the terrible start to the year. It caused
not their defense, so Drew. Their defense is
that's right. Their defense isn't very good, and that's exactly where they're struggling. But you watch the team and they play. I mean, they've been very good since the coaching change, and it's probably more than I would say just the dead cat bounce, because there's some. They have some fundamental quality to their game in spite of their limitations. And I thought the Jets did a good job of just staying patient and staying within themselves, as they've done so often in the course of this season. And anytime Minnesota punched, the Jets punched back. And of course, the Jets really landed the haymakers early on in taking a 3-0 lead, because Lord knows this Jets team, it's now 24 straight games having given
which
up
is a new NHL record, correct?
I think it was a new record. I think they set the new record on Wednesday. I thought that it was 23, because I think they were tied with Tampa at 22, and then they set the record on Wednesday. But nobody has said, hullabaloo about it. I know it's the holiday season and everything, but usually the NHL, anytime any team sets a record, and no matter how obscure that record is, they like to tweet it out from their facts and figures,
their PR
or whatever. Yeah. But yes, 24 straight games now that the Jets have given up 3 or less, and 11 of the last 12 having given up 2 or less. And we know that's a recipe for successful hockey and winning hockey. And, when you jump out to a 3-0 lead on home ice, there were times it got a little bit hairy, but the Jets did a very good job of just staying with it and expanding on the victory after Minnesota got within that one goal early in the third period.
Look, I mean, it was an interesting game. It was setting itself up, even though the Jets were pretty decent favorites, according to our friends at Betway, Drew. It was setting itself up for a very good game. You had a Minnesota team, as you've touched on, since John Hines took over the bench, that have not lost a lot of hockey games. And so you knew that they were feeling it. You knew that they wanted to kind of, it was interesting because they said it on the broadcast. Unlike the Jets, who are now 9-3-1 against the Central, of course, coming into today's game, they were 8-3-1. But, by my maritime math, that's 12 games before today. The Wild were only 3-2. They'd only played 5 games against Central Division opponents. So I thought that was interesting.
It's a scheduling quirk, I would say there, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. But again, this is a team that was 11-3-0, since John Hines took over. They'd won 4 straight games. And you knew that they really, this game, to win this game clean is significant. And we talked about it. And we talked about it on this morning show with we didn't talk about it, Drew, but
I wasn't there.
I talked about it with Jimmy Toth, who thanks again to him, who fought through injury to make sure he could be on the show with us. But one of the things we talked about was this opportunity. You are now 10 points up on Minnesota.
Yeah.
And that's big, because again, it very easily, if you lose both, it could be 4. And now you're at 10. Worst it's going to be is remaining at 8.
Is even Steven. Yeah,
exactly. So it's null. But I mean, in theory, if you get a win, you get a point in extra at least. You've built something over the course of this weekend. You're adding to, again, you have games in hand on Colorado. You're right there with Dallas. But the one thing we talked about was Nashville and Arizona are still coming on. St. Louis is sticking around.
Arizona's playing great hockey.
That's what I mean. So I think Arizona had won 2 in a row, Jim said. But the fact of the matter is,
but they're one of the best teams since, I think beginning of November, they're one of the top teams in the league Right. I don't know exactly the number, but I know that they've been playing some tremendous hockey as of late.
And Joe from Winnipeg, our friend, said that Minnesota, coming in today's game, Minnesota and Winnipeg were two of the hottest teams in the Central, right? I mean, it was clear. Arizona's also been a very good team. But to me, that, again, this was, I won't say it was a statement game, but I thought it was just an important measuring game for Winnipeg to show that they could be consistent.
Yeah.
Now, there's still some gremlins. The power play is still not great. They got their penalty.
But it looked better today.
It did look better. It did look better. It just, and look, you got to give credit where credit is due. And I thought Gustafsson played very well in net for the 2 periods he played. And Marc-Andre Fleury obviously came in the third. That was his 999th game. So tomorrow will be game number 1,000 in the NHL, which is an impressive mark for the legendary netminder. But the fact of the matter is that, you wanted to see if the Jets were going to be a consistent team, and they were. They were consistently, as you said, they played well, and when they needed to, they answered the call. If they needed to respond after, whether it was like a hit or whether it was a goal against, I mean, to score right after Boldy scored, that's a significant play by Axel Jonsson-Fjällby, who's got 2 goals in his last 4 games, and that those guys, and Tonnato, he's been noticeable, right? So you've got all of these guys. Again, when you're not getting goals from almost said Marc-Andre Scheifele, but Mark Scheifele and Nikolai Ehlers and Gabriel Velarde, well, hey, Nino Niederreiter steps up, and Drew, I tweeted it during the hockey game, but it was already a steal when you got him for a second, and he was good for you last year, and then you signed him to the extension, and he's doing what he's doing this year, and it looks like absolute larceny. I mean, it's unbelievable.
There's no question about it, and we've banged that drum. And not just us, but really everybody who covers this team has been banging that drum almost since it happened. But just a perfect fit. And you're right. I mean, he's just he's a winning hockey player. And, his contributions in today's game can't be overlooked, of course, with the 2 goals. And we'll get into all those goals, and we'll get into all the goals the Jets scored coming up here momentarily on the Betway game recap. But, he's a winning hockey player. Teams that he plays on win by and large, because he just goes to the right spots, and he knows how to play winning hockey, and he demands the same of his teammates. I mean, the Jets are playing winning hockey. And when they got, there were times where they got a little bit sloppy in today's game. And Kevin Sawyer, to his credit, pointed it out that there were some passes that were going east-west when they needed to go north-south. And sometimes that bit the Jets a little bit, in the behind, not necessarily directly leading to goals, but maybe directly leading to a change in the flow or a change in the, in how the game was played. But, those were, again, largely those are fewer and far between when it comes to the fewer and further between. I need to go back to work. Losing all command of the English language, but fewer and further between than what has come to be expected. So that's these are all the good things that the Winnipeg Jets continue to do, and that's why they get rewarded. That's why they win games. That's why they're getting contributions up and down their lineup. That's why things are going so well for this team. And you absolutely spoke about it, Dave. To win on home ice, look. You're playing on home ice today. You're going
in front of in front of the first sold out crowd of the season.
Right, exactly. So, home ice tonight, you have to win that game. You want to win that game clean, because you're right. Even if you go into Minnesota tomorrow, and whatever happens is going to happen tomorrow, and it's going to be a tough game for both teams, equal footing for both teams. But worst case scenario, you are where you are. You are where you started before this 2-game series began, and that for the Winnipeg Jets is in a commanding position over their division rival, because Minnesota and the Jets. Minnesota's had the Jets number the last number of years and played some pretty good hockey against the Jets, and it's been a struggle for the Jets to succeed against Minnesota. But to get the win on home ice tonight, like they did, or this afternoon, like they did, well, it certainly leaves everybody in downtown Winnipeg feeling good. It leaves the players feeling good. Now they jump on a plane. They'll get to Minnesota at a reasonable hour tonight, and then they'll do it again tomorrow before they'll be back in Winnipeg long before the ball drops tomorrow night on New Year's Eve, which is sort of a bizarre scheduling and timing and everything else about that.
Well, I mean, they can come and join me at the Moose game and watch the indoor fireworks at Canada Life from
indoor fireworks. Is that what's happening tomorrow?
Tomorrow after the Moose game, it'll be
also fire extinguisher night, is my understanding.
We'll see. I've never seen indoor fireworks, although I was reliably informed by someone in the chat this morning that Kiss, no surprise, had fireworks. So I don't know how extensive these fireworks will be. But maybe instead of seeing the fireworks go all the way up into the sky, who knows what they're going to be. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm still trying to figure out how exactly I'm going to make this work, whether I'm going to be doing the post-game show at Canada Life, or if I'll do it here, skip the first period and then go there for the second and third.
Yeah.
But either way, I will be available. And Drew, I thought I'd close that blind.
I was going to say that blind I'm just looking at you, and the blind is blinding me looking at you with that sunshine coming through. It's a bit of a gray day here in Kentucky, so I won't have to worry about any sunshine coming through. But I'll tell you what, Dave, now that you've mentioned Kiss, why don't we kiss off this preamble and get into the Betway game recap, talking about the Jets' victory over the Minnesota Wild.
The Betway game recap.
The Betway game recap here on the Illegal Curve post-game show. It, of course, is brought to you by our friends at Betway, the most trusted voice in sports betting, both in Canada and all around the world. Hopefully you were like me and bet on Ole Miss on the money line against, who they played? Against Penn State this afternoon in the Peach Bowl. If you happen to be a college football fan, there you go. Hopefully our friends at Betway are still going to be able to pay me out. I'm sure they will. They're most trusted voice in sports betting for a reason. Please play responsibly, of course. That's the important part that Betway would like you to know. Let me switch from my... Again, I'm almost back to getting my second screen, so it'll be a little bit more normal for me. I'm all discombobulated without the two screens. And the next year,
you need your second screen, Drew. That's no question.
I'm a big second screen guy. That's really what boils down.
You may have to trade the clock for a second screen.
Oh boy, that I don't think anyone's going to agree with that trade, Dave. The clock is priority number one. I think people would rather trade me than the clock. All of a sudden, there'll just be some random person in my in-laws' house doing the show and showing the clock, and they'll be like, "What happened to Drew? Why isn't he on the show anymore?" In any event, the Jets open the scoring. It's at the 3:59 mark of the first period, and it's sort of funny because before this, the Jets had done what they did so often in Chicago on Wednesday night, which is, of course, hit the post. Josh Morrissey hit the post early in tonight's game, and you're wondering, okay, here we go again. But that was not the case on this one. The Jets do get a favorable bounce. It's Alex Iafallo, his sixth of the year, guy who was definitely in need of a goal. He'd been going through a bit of a slump and a drought on that front, on the points front after starting the year so strong. Iafallo getting at his sixth of the year assist to Vlad Nemesnikov. And this is really just, he turns and he fires a knuckle puck sort of from the top of the circle, and to the Jets' advantage and to the Jets' benefit and to the woes of the Wild, it deflects off of Jared Spurgeon and it deflects off of the goaltender Gustafsson and goes top corner. You couldn't have put it any higher up, right under the bar down and out, but it counted for the Winnipeg Jets, a fortuitous bounce, and that gets the Jets on the board early in this afternoon's contest.
But, Drew, you're right. Absolutely. It was a lucky bounce. There's no question about it. Well, yep. I should say lucky bounces because, of course, it hits Spurgeon and then it hits Gustafsson and then it goes into the net. But also you have to and I will probably say this more than once, is you have to the aggressiveness, but also the good forecheck by the Jets. Got Dylan Sandberg who's coming in. You got Cole Perfetti who puts himself into a perfect spot. Now, he doesn't get an assist on this, but he's aggressive on what's his name? 89, who I can't remember his name off the top of my head now. But, it's just a nice play by him to force. 89
is Frederick.
Goodrow. Yeah. So he forces him to make a quick play, who tries to get it out. Nemesnikov is backing him up. He gets a stick on it, which, of course, has the puck go to Alex Iafallo, who, look, that's sometimes what you have to do. It doesn't always have to be the perfect shot or the perfect situation. Sometimes just getting it on net is gonna be what you need to do, and that's an important goal for Alex Iafallo. Make him feel like, again, we talk about it all the time. You can't always just rely on the top goal scorers to produce. You need that depth, and this story of today's game, of course, is going to be about the depth scoring, because that's where it obviously came from today in the third and fourth lines, or however you want to configure them. Although I guess that was technically a second line goal, but the second, third, and fourth, not the first line, I guess.
It didn't come from Ehlers, Scheifele, and Velarde, who, again, I thought they played an okay game at best. They would probably give them and
even then their advanced stats were fine. They just I agree with you. They didn't dominate.
We're used to domination from them.
That's right, exactly. Yeah. It's an important goal for Alex Iafallo to get him going in this game and get the team excited, because They talked about it on the broadcast. Minnesota, when they score first, 10-0 when they score during this stretch, in this 13-4 stretch, or now 13-5 stretch that they're on under John Hines. In 10 of those 13 games, 10 of those 13 wins, they had scored the first goal. So
yeah,
they were pretty good when they scored first. And that's one of those situations where, although interestingly, and it continued today, Minnesota is one of just 5 teams to not be able to come back from a 2-goal deficit this season. So, that boded well when the Jets were able to extend their lead.
By NHL rule, once the Jets score 3 goals, they just automatically win the game. That's what happens. The game just ends, and we all move on to the next game. That's the new rule the NHL has decided to implement based on the Jets' play so far this season. So 1-0 early on for the Jets, and that's exactly how you want to start on home ice in front of the sold out crowd. And I saw some comments in the chat saying it wasn't quite sold out. No, the number that the 15-2 and change is the sold out number after the seating rearrangements that have been done at Canada Life Center. So it was a sold out crowd tonight in Winnipeg, and it's good for the Jets. They played well. They and so they deserve to be supported, and good for fans deciding to spend their hard-earned money to watch the team because the team has been playing well. So it's a quid pro quo situation, and it's and the fan base is rewarding ownership and the players for what they're doing on the ice. Jets made it 2-0. It took about just under 10 minutes, or a little more than 10 minutes later, at the 14:38 mark of the second period. Nino Niederreiter. First period. Thank you. Nino Niederreiter, his 11th of the year, assist to Adam Lowry. And this is what you want to see from this line. It's just a hard-working goal where they're bigger and stronger than the opponents. And that's exactly what it is. It's a strong forecheck. I still don't know how Mason Appleton doesn't get an assist.
Yeah.
There's an assist here, but it's a strong forecheck by Appleton and Lowry. They go and win a puck battle behind the net. And, they're just stronger and harder to play against than both John Merrill and Zach Bogosian, old friend of the Winnipeg Jets. Zach Bogosian playing for the Minnesota Wild, which maybe speaks to some of their defensive shortcomings that we talked about earlier in the post-game show. They go in there, they get the puck, they retrieve the puck, they win the puck battle. Lowry tries a wraparound, and the rebound is just sitting there for Nino Niederreiter. And where does he score from? He scores from basically in the crease, because that's where he scores all of his goals from. It's just sitting there. He tees it up for him, and he pops it in past Gustafsson to give the Jets a 2-0 lead. And it's not pretty, but it's effective. And it's so the Jets have been using this effective kind of style of play all season long, and that's what you saw here.
Yeah, for sure, Drew. And you know what? It's interesting that you mentioned the Appleton, the lack of assist, because someone had asked me about Cole Perfetti on that first one, but I had seen, that Gaudreau, when I went back and watched the replay, that he had been forced, kind of quickly to get rid of the puck, and Nemestikov was the one who blocked it, and then it went to Iafallo. On this play, I thought you'd give Appleton the assist because he had the touch on it, but regardless, it was a nice forecheck by that line, and it was really aggressive, and he had actually led the forecheck even just prior. Like, they show him on the replay, they show him that forecheck, but he had led the forecheck like 15-20 seconds earlier, and he had really started to create something in the Minnesota zone. So you like to see what Mason Appleton was doing there, and that's the interesting thing about stats, right? We tend to focus on who got the goals, who got the assists, but sometimes a guy like Mason Appleton does the hard work behind the net, banging and crashing, and doesn't show up on the score sheet other than, he gets a +1. But the fact of the matter is, really, he's an integral piece of that puzzle there. And so, he does the hard work and the heavy lifting, and really goes up against 2 guys, and he gets the help from Adam Lowry comes in, and, he does his own heavy lifting. And then you're right. You just look at what Minnesota did defensively there, and you're thinking to yourself, like, what are they doing? Like, Merrill's a step behind Lowry at this point, so he's already lost them. Yeah. Eriksson Ek is in no man's land. Who's 12 again on Minnesota? That's not Boldy. It's
12 is Matt Boldy. You got that right.
Yeah, it is Boldy. Okay, yeah. So Boldy is just basically kind of watching Lowry do a wraparound, and I know he's got to watch the defenseman, but he's, they basically are just standing around watching, and so you're thinking to yourself, well, that's a good opportunity. And then Nino Niederreiter, Drew, as you said, perfect time, perfect place, and he's just a smart hockey player, and he does the things that smart hockey players do, which is go to the front of the net and look for an opportunity. And he can see, I'm sure, again, the hockey players analyze the game, right? So what is he doing? He's analyzing that opportunity for himself to, sees that everybody's kind of standing around watching Adam Lowry. Well, he sees that here's an opportunity, finds a soft ice, and sure enough, puts it in. And suddenly now 2-0, and the crowd is into it. I mean, that's amping it up right there because, you can just, again, it's funny because we talked about it on this morning show. Saturday, or not necessarily Saturday afternoon, but afternoon games can be sleepy. Sure. And even though Connor Hellebuck loves an afternoon game,
he loves them.
He loves them. But even though he loves them, the fact of the matter is they can tend to be a little bit of a sleepy affair. This we knew wasn't going to be sleepy because of, the history of these two teams, the rivalry between these two teams, what Minnesota's been doing, the Jets wanting to kind of step on their throat and really prevent this sort of sustained, or just prevent Minnesota from allowing them to kind of get back into that, Central Division race. And like I said, it was a 3 versus 7, but it didn't feel like that prior to the game and throughout the course of this game. So, it's 2-0 and the crowd is into it and they're pumped up and they're excited. And folks are pleased in Winnipeg with the 2-0 lead after 20 minutes. And I think what were shots, like 13-9 or something like that?
12-9. 12-9 after 20 minutes. A very effective.
I think they had 13-9 I think TSN had it as 13-9. And then I think that someone else said 12-9. So,
well, we'll forgive him this one time, and this one time only. But look, a very effective opening period for the Winnipeg Jets. That's exactly how you want to start off. It's exactly how you want to play against a division rival at home. Haven't played since Wednesday. You had the skills competition. That was Thursday. They had a practice Friday. So they've had a little bit of downtime, never mind the 4-day break before that. So this is exactly how you want to come out and respond to, the loss to the Chicago Blackhawks, a team well below you in the standings. And not that it's a horrendous loss or anything, but this is how you want to respond and how you want to come back. So it's 2-0 for the Jets after 20 minutes, and then they make it 3-0. And boy, is this a huge goal. You're just sort of digging the hole that the Wild are trying to have to dig out of deeper. And it's Nino Niederreiter again, his 12th of the year, assist to Josh Morrissey and Mason Appleton. And again, it's not anything pretty. It comes after the Jets had killed off a penalty. So who's in the box at this point in time? This is with just after the Adam Lowry penalty for holding expires. So that was the first penalty. Was that the first penalty of the game? No, that was the first Jets penalty of the game. Second penalty of the game.
Lowry had the first. Yeah, it was Lowry and then penalty.
Yeah, and then it started to get a little bit crazy with the parade to the penalty.
Well, it was stupid for both teams, by the way. This is not like some sort of like, oh, poor Winnipeg. I thought the ref, the Sun's back. I thought the refereeing was kind of mid, if you will.
Yes, it's almost as mid as your blinds there. We're gonna start a GoFundMe to get Dave some better blinds in.
I have the house. But you got to understand, I never do shows when it's this bright. Usually, I do a show on Saturday morning, so the sun's fit where as is. It's not bothering me, and now it's somehow it's gotten me.
There you go.
Trapped.
I know. It's okay. You're
going to wear shades.
I was going to say, you can wear your sunglasses at night there, Corey Hart. In any event, it's Nino Niederreiter again, as I mentioned, at the 6:45 mark of the second period. So the Jets kill off a penalty, and then they get rewarded. And again, it's nothing particularly pretty. It's nothing that's going to make any sort of highlight reel or anything along those lines. It's Mason Appleton along the boards doing the dirty work. And he gets it back up to Josh Morrissey, and Morrissey takes a shot, and it's a shot on goal, and the rebound is there for Nino Niederreiter. It's, again, it's just basic effective hockey. It's, get it in deep, pucks in deep, back to the point, shot on goal, rebound, goal. Sometimes there's not a huge level of analysis required, aside from the fact that you're just executing at a higher level than your opponent is. And that's what you saw here with the Jets, again, executing their game plan and taking advantage of a weak Minnesota defense and their inability to handle the Jets' relatively ferocious forecheck. Mason Appleton, again, in this role, he is very good and effective at this role. Don't ask him to become a scorer. He's not going to be a scorer. That ship has sailed. You know exactly what you have in Mason Appleton. But when he's playing on a line where all you're asking him to do is go play a hard game, and a simple, effective game, well, he's playing that at a very high level. And you saw another example of that here to make it 3-0 for the Jets.
No, there's no question about it, Drew. And further to what you've just mentioned, I mean, Josh Morrissey didn't just that was intentional, right? Like he didn't just throw it at the net. Like we say sometimes
it's a shot for a rebound.
Pass. Yeah, I actually thought it was. To be honest with you, I actually think he was passing for. I actually think he was shooting it to pass to Nina Ryder. I really do. I think it was. I think it was more of a intentional. Just it was a hard pass, but I think he was just trying to get it to Nina Ryder because he saw where he was again, right in front, causing havoc, causing a problem for the Wild, and you're taking advantage. The biggest weakness from what I can see on this Wild team is Kaprizov, I didn't think he was very noticeable in today's game. I thought a lot of their guys kind of didn't look very noticeable.
Well, Jared Spurgeon just coming back into the lineup.
Yeah, he had missed. He's missed the last 7 games, so that's tough. But I just think that their defense is. I mean, look, Zach Bogosian. How many minutes did Zach Bogosian play in today's game?
Zach Bogosian in today's game played 17:28.
Yeah,
and that's just a lot. That's a lot to ask Zach Bogosian at this point of his career. This is a guy who, is a 7th, 8th defenseman. That's the role he was playing in Tampa Bay largely, is really depth defense. You know what you're getting from him. He's big and he's physical, but he doesn't have the foot speed that he, remember, we all remember Zach. It was just a long time ago. Somehow we've all gotten a lot older, but we remember where he was drafted. He never blossomed into the offensive defenseman that his draft status and his draft slot would have expected. But he was a strong, tough, physical defenseman.
Yeah,
and he's still that, but now he's just slower and just not as effective in big minutes on a regular basis like that.
Coincidentally, actually, Brendan Dillon passed Zach Bogosian today.
There you go. Here comes Dave's random jet stat of the post game show.
He passed Zach Bogosian into 29th on the all-time list with 195 games wearing a Jets jersey, tying Brandon Tanev and Pierre-Luc Dubois. So there you go.
Dave can pull out these these nuggets of wisdom, let's call them. How about that?
But no, what's interesting, Drew, is that it seemed like Zach Bogosian was in Winnipeg forever, and it feels like Brendan Dillon's been in Winnipeg relatively, recent.
Sure.
So it doesn't feel like those two would have played an equal number of hockey games for this Winnipeg Jets team. I'm just saying. So that's why I thought it was just an interesting little stat. Anyways.
There you go. Well done with that interesting stat. I agree. So 3-0 for the Winnipeg Jets at this point of the second period. So just about 6 minutes, 6.5 minutes, a little bit more than that, 6.5 minutes into the second period. The Jets have that 3-0 lead, and they're feeling good about themselves. Minnesota cuts into the lead, and they do it at the 10:05 mark, 3 minutes and 20 seconds later. It's enemy of Ehlers, Ryan Hartman. That's on the power play, his 11th of the year. Assist is this Marcus Johansson? I assume that's who that is for the Marcus Johansson, good veteran player. He gets his 15th assist, and Frederick Gaudreau again is also on the score sheet on this power play goal, and it's really well executed power play, something you can't say very often about the Jets this year, although the power play did look better for the Jets. It had more movement, it had more scoring opportunities, it was less static than most recent games, but this one's nice. It's really a tic-tac-toe passing play. Up at the point is where Gaudreau has it down low to Marcus Johansson, then cross crease, is able to get it to Ryan Hartman, and it's on and off sticks very quickly, and no chance for Connor Hellebuyck on this one. And it's 3-1 for the Jets halfway through the second period, Dave.
Yeah, and the Jets looked like they had gotten out of that. It was the end of the power play, and it's interesting because it actually didn't even look like Johansson even got it clean, Drew, but he gets it to Hartman, and Hartman puts it. It's hard. That's a hard save for Connor Hellebuyck to make, and he doesn't. And yeah, again, it was a big focus of today's Illegal Curve Hockey Show because we talked about the Jets special teams, and we said, and the question I posed to Jim, I won't pose it to you, Drew, because I'm not the host, but when I was the host, I posed the question to Jim: what is more important for the Jets right now to fix, the 23rd ranked power play or the 26th ranked PK? Of course, the numbers would have changed by after today's game, but it really is a question as to what this team is going to have to do to get a little bit more effective. And Murat wrote a really good article, and we talked about it already, so we don't have to go into it in the post game show, but just talked about some of the things you want to see the Jets doing. And one of the things that he touched on, and it's one thing we've talked about on this show, is just the lack of movement from these guys when they don't have the puck. That they seem married to their positions as opposed to shifting. And so that to me was a little bit more. It was a little bit better today, I thought, but still, I think the decision making was better today. I still think that they stuck with those kind of that idea of being married to their positions. And look, it's been a problem, again, when your power play. Rick Bowness said it yesterday after the Chicago game. or was it yesterday? And regardless, he said 5 or 6 games he feels that it's cost them
special teams
from the
has cost
special
them
teams.
victories. Yeah.
So you've got to tighten things up, because again, you don't have to be top 10 in both in order to win a Stanley Cup, but you need to be, a lot amongst the league average at least. And right now the Jets are below that in both categories.
Yeah, it certainly would be that would be an aspirational spot for the Jets to be, no question about it.
And again, even if they're like the Wild, you got to remember, even if the Wild don't score on their power play opportunities, the Jets were out shooting the Wild 20. And don't get me wrong, I thought the penalties against both teams were pretty marginal.
Yeah,
I didn't like a lot of the calls. I thought a lot of the calls were not great calls. I just thought, let them play. It's been an entertaining hockey game. You don't need that many penalties, but the refs are the refs.
Right.
But
I would agree. But if you're going to call marginal penalties on both teams, just the problem is that they go down a rabbit hole. They call one marginal penalty.
Yeah.
So then what do they have to do? Then they have to call another marginal penalty to even it out. It's a makeup call. It's a Revlon. And then, then what happens is then they just start calling all the marginal penalties for the rest of the game. The standard changed somewhere between the first period and the second period. And look, it's a difficult job. Don't get me wrong. And I hate spending time talking about it, but it's just the reality of it is that it's just so inconsistent from period to period. But I'll give them credit in that at least it was consistently poor for both teams, or consistently weak calls, let's say, or consistently middling calls rather than blatant calls for both teams.
And look, it just impacts the game, because at that point you're up. The Jets are up 3-0, and they're out shooting Minnesota 20-9. I think I wrote 20-10 in our tweet on the earlier, but I think I saw after it was 20-9. I'll blame TSN again. But the fact of the matter is, Drew, that Minnesota took a 13-2 shot advantage shortly thereafter, and then suddenly it was 22-22. So it, even though it
takes you out of the flow when you're playing 5
takes
on
you out
5.
of the flow, but it also gave Minnesota a lot of life. And that's what to me was the problem for the Jets, was that not only did Minnesota score on one of their power play opportunities, but it gave them a lot of life in that game, a game that Winnipeg looked to be controlling.
At 5 on 5. If the game if the parade of penalties doesn't begin, the Jets are again controlling the flow of play at 5 on 5 for the most part in today's game, at least the early parts of it. And you're right, then it got disjointed, and the Jets want to play at 5 on 5 because they're one of the better 5 on 5 teams in the league. And so that's it's incumbent on them to stay out of the penalty box in that case as well.
Well, and Drew, they were so penalty call happy. At one point, the guy called the penalty on Brian Little.
Really?
Well, it was funny. He meant to call the penalty on Adam Lowry, and he goes 18, and I'm like, 18? I'm like, is Brian Little back in the game? What's going on right now? I'm like, you guys are going a little too far with these penalty calls here.
Yeah. So 3-1 though for the Jets after 40 minutes. So they give up the goal to Hartman, and there was some more penalties even after that. The too many men on the ice penalty. There was that the good fight between the roughing penalties between Brendan Dillon and Joel Eriksson.
That was a good tilt.
Well, that was before the fight, but just those two guys battling in front of the net.
Yeah.
That's just good, hard net front battle. And then, the tilt between Middleton and Dillon. Yeah, exactly. Was also a good, you could tell the physical nature of the game. No question about.
Sorry, Drew, I'm going to do a little, but is that Rick Middleton's kid?
My guess would be not, but I have no idea. I'll let you Google that and find out, or you can look that up during the commercial.
No, I just want the chat to tell me.
Okay, somebody in the
Austin
chat.
Bruin, great. Rick Middleton.
Yeah, I don't think the age would work though. Wouldn't Middleton wouldn't his kid be older by now?
I don't know. That's why we have the chat. That's why we have the chat to let us know.
The chat can do the research. Where's the intern? I saw Amy. I saw the intern's mom, but where's the intern today? I don't know where she's at. But nonetheless, so 3-1 for the Jets after 40 minutes. And then how's the third going to start? Well, the third did not start well for the Winnipeg Jets. And boy, the Minnesota Wild needed this, and they got it. 3-2, 20 seconds into the third period. It's Matt Boldy, his 11th of the year assist to Kirill Kaprizov, and the Jets just sort of lose him. They just, something that they've been very good at preventing this year and avoiding this year is ease to the high danger areas. And that's what happened here is that Boldy is just sort of left alone. Brendan Dillon, to me, is puck watching, and Boldy goes to the soft ice, and Kaprizov feeds him. Boldy's a good player. He's a good young player, and he's a good young goal scorer. As you can tell, he's already got, what do they say? He's already got 11 this year, so he's well on his way to get probably, somewhere between 20 and 25, give or take. And it's the Wild get a very early third period goal, and they're feeling good about themselves 20 seconds into the period, Dave.
For sure. And, like that to me is could have been such a change in the game, right? Because that the Wild are suddenly they're feeling into it. And you're thinking, well, is Connor Hellebuck going to give up more than 3 goals in this game? Because, of course, that's what it's going to take for Minnesota to win.
Yeah.
And, a goal 20 seconds into a period is tough it's tough for either, it's good. It's a boost, obviously, for one team, and it's hard for the other team. And so, it's unfortunate because Lowry almost had possession of that puck, kind of poked it loose, and they took a good bounce for the Wild. And then, they just made a nice connection. And you're right, Drew. At some point, they're kind of puck watching a little bit, but you got to give Kaprizov credit because that's a nice no look pass by him. And you're right. I mean,
he's a fantastic hockey player.
No, there's no question.
And he wasn't great today, and he's a fantastic.
No, I just didn't think he was super noticeable throughout the course of the game, but on this play for sure, he while wrapped up by by what's his name, it was a nice play by him. And so that to me is the credit where you give it, because I like I said, I didn't think he was particularly noteworthy, but I think it was Pionk. But he makes the play, he gets the puck, and then next thing you know, the Jets are now only up 3-2, and there's a lot of hockey left to be played in that third period. So you're wondering, what are we going to see from this Jets club? Are we going to see the Jets club we've been seeing consistently throughout this quote December to remember, which is a lot like the November to remember, but or are you going to see a team that's going to revert back to some bad habits?
Right, because the Wild has now scored 2 straight goals to make it to cut it from 3-0 to 3-2, and there's still almost the entire third period still to go. Ishaboy Bruce, good friend of the show, says that Jake Middleton is no relation. So I didn't think he was. So there you.
Yeah, I did some quick looking as well, but I appreciate Ishaboy Bruce looking as well.
There you go.
But I was hoping.
Yeah. And Bailey is back in the chat. She just she said she had to run an errand, but clearly I'm a little bit off put by the timing of that errand, Bailey.
For the priorities. Record, though, for the record, his brother Keaton Middleton plays for Colorado.
Oh, okay. There you go. Thank you for that.
You got the whole Middleton chronology.
You're going down that rabbit hole there, Mr. Manuk. 3-2 for the Winnipeg Jets. How are they going to respond? That's the question for the final 19 minutes and 40 seconds of the third period. And they respond really well. 2 minutes and 26 seconds later. It's not from guys you would expect. It's not from guys you would necessarily roll off the tip of your tongue as goal scorers for this Jets team, but it's Axel Jonsson-Fjällby again getting his second of the year. It also doubles as our Seagram shot of the game.
The Seagram shot of the game.
I took a few too many of those Seagram shots last night. As I said, Laura and I were in Lexington, so I'm feeling a little rough today. I'm not young, Dave. I'm not young anymore. I can't. Not that I could ever really drink that well, but if I drink too much, on occasion, it takes me about a good 2 or 3 days to bounce back. So I'm feeling a little bit under the weather today. Laura and I had some good times at the Kentucky basketball game yesterday. But Axel Jonsson-Fjällby, big thanks to our friends at Seagrams is what I also meant to say there. For their sponsorship of the Illegal Curve post-game show. New Year's Eve, that's tomorrow. Today's Saturday, so you might be tipping a few back. Whatever you're drinking, we encourage you to drink something delicious from our friends at Seagram's and drink it responsibly as well. I also see some Farmery beer in the back corner there. That's also available at number 2 Donald Street. Farmery beer. Yes, go ahead.
I was going to say that folks at Farmery want us to come to the plant in Niverville, or just outside of Niverville. What did I say? Niverville? I meant
you said Niverville. It's in Nipawa?
Yeah, it is in Nipawa. We can go to Niverville too.
You drive past it all the time on your
Explore
way up to Riding Mountain National Park.
Yeah, I know. But I got excited. The fastest growing community outside of Winnipeg, of course, Niverville. Shout out to them. But Nipawa, the home of Shea Knighty, of course. Yes. The just outside there, they have the farm. It's all Farmery. As soon as you get to the town, it's Farmery this, Farmery that, and they've got their farm there. Farmery farm, if you will, and they want us to do some beer distilling or something. So we'll definitely be. I already talked to the guys saying that Drew and I are always wearing the same IC shirt and bump into each other regularly in Clear Lake. So it won't be hard for us to bring our microphones, our cameras, and do a show in Riding Mountain National Park.
And what's going to happen is we're going to wheel Ginsburg in like Hannibal Lecter style, wrapped up so that he can't do any damage to the beer that is being made. That's just security and protection for all involved. Make sure Ginsburg doesn't get out of hand. I mean, if he ever comes back, I don't know where the hell he is, to be perfectly honest. Somewhere south and warm. Is that where he is? He's in Mexico? Yeah. Okay, there you Mexico. Go. Okay, and home of the Sawchucks also there. Kim Sawchuk, good friend of the show, saying it as well. Nonetheless, the Jets respond very well. Axel Jonsson-Fjällby, his second of the season, assisted Dominic Toninato and Morgan Barron. And boy, do you love this. This is just, again, another hard-working goal by the Winnipeg Jets. All, with the exception of the first one, which was a bit fluky. The other 3 goals were almost carbon copies. This one is Morgan Barron dumps the puck in, to start the play, and then it's a hard forecheck. Toninato is hard on the forecheck. John Merrill, who really had a rough game for the Minnesota Wild here, couldn't handle the forecheck. So what ends up happening is Toninato gets the puck and he feeds it from behind the net out to Axel Jonsson-Fjällby and on and off his stick really quick, beating Marc-Andre Fleury, who started the third period for the Minnesota Wild. Gustafsson out apparently with an injury. Haven't seen any sort of update. I'll check in with our friend Michael Russo on that. He covers the Wild for so many years, of course. But it's Marc-Andre Fleury in net for the Wild to start the third period. And it's a bit of a rude awakening as the Jets get back to a 2-goal lead. And this is just an absolutely massive goal coming from an unexpected source, Dave. You're on mute.
Sorry, I was coughing. I was having a coughing fit, so I didn't want to. Yeah. I didn't want the folks in the chat to be subjected to my cough. So, look, you loved everything about this goal because again, it was a nice stretch pass from the Jets zone after they took the puck from Minnesota, and then you had a good forecheck and Dominic Toninato and Axel Jonsson-Fjällby. I mean, look, the fact of the matter is these guys don't want to go back to the Moose. Nothing wrong with that. There's no slight to that. I mean, they're guys who want to play in the NHL. Every guy wants to play in the NHL. Not one guy who's playing on the Moose says, I don't want to play in the NHL. And the guys who are in the NHL don't want to go back to the AHL. It's just the reality. Mm-hmm. So what are these guys doing? When they get the opportunity, and we saw it early in the first period, Dominic Toninato had a good chance coming down, had a good shot at the net, shot wide, but still, like, you like to see that they were being aggressive. And, again, this year, more than any other year for the Winnipeg Jets, you have, and obviously right now the fourth line is a little bit in flux, but you have a fourth line that can be effective. And not only are they effective at preventing goals, but you want them to be able to contribute. And Axel Jonsson-Fjällby, we talked about it. I talked about it on this morning show with Jim, where we were talking about players like Kevin Stenlund and Saku Manalainen, specifically Saku Manalainen, because we talked about how important he was for the Jets PK. But he couldn't do anything else. It's where offense went to die on his stick. And Axel Jonsson-Fjällby, he's got a lot of speed. He can be effective on your PK, but you need to see him contributing. And so if he can play on the PK and he can contribute goals, that being his second in 4 games, I mean, that's important for a fourth line player. When you get those opportunities, you have to produce. And it was a nice pass by Dominic Toninato. That's his second assist of the season. And in what is that his third game now? Or second game? Second game.
Second game, yeah.
Chicago was the first game. He played the Chicago. Yeah, he played the Chicago game and he played this game. So his second goal of the season, he's got 2 assists, and it was just an effective play. And you wanted to see that. You wanted to see the guys make quick decisions, and that's what they did. Toninato didn't. He saw Axel Jonsson-Fjällby. Axel Jonsson-Fjällby has time and space, gets himself open, uses that effective speed that he has to ensure that he's got that created that opportunity for himself, and then he buries it quickly. And that's, you don't want to see him just like use that opportunity and put it into Marc-Andre Fleury in the numbers, or not in the numbers, I guess, but in the crest. Mm-hmm. And in this instance, he buries it, and it's such a impactful goal because it's 4-2, crowds back into it, and you're also answering the bell. What is it? Just over 2 minutes later. So it's important. It's important for the confidence of your team, which again, I like the Jets' consistency. We talked about it, Drew. When they were playing 5-on-5, it was pretty even. But now when you're up 4-2, you're feeling like the Jets are able to lock that down.
Yeah, Exactly right. Well, because all evidence to that effect has been demonstrated throughout the course of this year that they've been able to lock that down, and that's exactly what they do. I mean, Nino Niederreiter had the hat trick on his stick if it wasn't for Marc-Andre Fleury making a tremendous save. I mean, he still got it. Marc-Andre Fleury's a tremendous goaltender. I mean, he can't be your number one anymore. He can't handle that kind of workload. He's up there in years, but it's still great to see him, and he's going to play his 1,000th game tomorrow against the Jets for the Wild as he entered the game. Gustafsson injured today, but he made a great save, and the Wild they kept battling. They certainly they had the 6-on-4 they had the late penalty, and then they pulled Fleury to make it 6-on-4. But the Jets and Connor Hellebuyck especially, we're almost 50 minutes or we're over 50 minutes into this show, and I don't really think we've mentioned Connor Hellebuyck, but he was he was exactly what the Jets need from him. He was very steady and very solid,
except for the first period. In the first period, Drew, in the first period, there were a couple of instances where I was like, what is where like that was that one play,
the 360 in the crease? Is that the one you're talking about?
And honestly, I have a question for you. Did he make that save or did they shoot it wide? Because to my viewing, they shot it wide, but I couldn't it was funny because when you heard people talk about it, they made it sound like he didn't shoot it wide, that it was a save. So, but it was still unusual because all of a sudden he was completely turned around.
It was not textbook positioning in that instance.
And
who was a little, he was a little fish out of water. Who he's sort of like there in terms of a goalie. He's not necessarily textbook. No, Marc-Andre Fleury is what I was going to say. Because again, not a guy who usually is necessarily big and boring all the time. He sometimes is a little bit wild in net, but effective. And that was one of those ones that you don't usually see from Connor Hellebuyck.
Yeah,
because big and boring is usually his MO more than
Doug is
more than Hasek-esque or Fleury-esque in that instance. But
Doug is saying he thought it was wide. So
yeah, I mean, look,
but it was just that one sequence, Drew, where it was he made that play where he was kind of turned around and the Wild shot it wide, and then there was the other one where he went to close his hand on the puck, didn't get it closed. And it created an opportunity where the Wild came close to scoring and didn't. But that's the game of hockey where you love it because it's a game of puck luck sometimes and inches. And in this instance, it was in the Jets' favor.
So a quick update before we wrap up the Betway game recap. Kirill Kaprizov injured in today's game. No word if he's going to play tomorrow or not. But
is that from that hit up by Brendan Dillon?
Yeah, the cross checks from Brendan Dillon, which of course has made Twitter, as you can imagine, has gone apoplectic. The Wild are calling for Dillon to, I believe, be hung from the public gallows, which don't exist. And Jets fans are responding and saying that's nothing. It happens a million times a game, and whatever. I don't need to get into it, but Kaprizov was out of the game for
last 10 minutes.
Last 10 or so minutes.
Yeah.
And that is going to be something to watch tomorrow if he ends up playing or not, as the rematch takes place tomorrow afternoon in St. Paul between these two teams that do not have any love loss for one another. That's the Betway game recap on this, Saturday afternoon edition of the Illegal Curve post-game
Second last day
show.
of the year, Drew.
Second last day, the 30th. We do it again tomorrow. Again, 1:00 Central Time with puck drop tomorrow. So post-game show right around 3:45, give or take a couple minutes there. Dave M will be will be at the helm of the post-game show tomorrow with special guests to be determined at this point in time, as I will be traveling back from the Bluegrass to the Flatlands. And on that note, when we come back, we're going to say goodbye to a friend that we've all missed and we've all loved being around for the last week or 10 days or so. And we'll have more on the Jets and the Minnesota Wild. Jets victorious today, 4-2. It's the Illegal Curve post-game show. Drew Mindell, Dave Manouk. Stay with us. We're live on our YouTube channel and all of our social media platforms.
Your coworkers love you because you always make them laugh. You're the life of the party with stories that have them rolling on the floor. Or maybe you're just the quiet one in the corner with the one-liners that just slay. Do you have what it takes to become Winnipeg's funniest person with a day job? Try your luck. Hit the stage at Rumors Comedy Club, and you could be walking away with $1,000 cash. Winnipeg's funniest person with a day job. Presented by Rumors. For all the details, head to rumorscomedyclub.com.
So you're a pizza person, you married a wing person, but somehow your kids are salad people. You can't pick your fam, but you can pick your BP meal deal. Starting from $18.99 for takeout or delivery at bostonpizza.com.
The game can change
just like that. Accidents happen when you aren't protected. So now what? Getting to your injury quickly can make all the difference. Help prevent them from being game changers with Linden Market Dental Center. Bonding, crowns, bridges, and dental implants. State-of-the-art treatments are available to help you get back in the game. To learn more, visit lindenmarketdentalcenter.com. Creating smiles for life.
Whoa, Ezzy, everything okay? You look stressed.
Of course I'm stressed. We're moving, the house is upside down, the kids failed miserably at packing the fine china, and my life is in chaos. Chaos!
Yes, that does sound like a problem.
What am I going to do?
Ezzy, relax. Rolly's Transfer Moving and Storage is the answer. With 60 years of experience in moving Manitobans and a track record of exemplary customer service, one call to Rolly's and your stress is gone. No job is too big or too small. Just visit Rollies.com and they will take it from there.
Thanks, Dave, and thank you, Rollies Transfer Moving and Storage, online at Rollies.com.
Boston Pizza harnessed Fanalytics to test if the game is better at home or at Boston Pizza. The results are irrefutable. Catch the game at Boston Pizza, powered by Fanalytics.
For 3 generations and over 80 years, Tough Duck has been making apparel that works and plays as hard as the people who wear it. From jackets to work boots and everything in between, Tough Duck's clothing can handle the harshest environments, even the illegal curve hockey show. Work to live, live to play. Visit toughduck.com. "20 minutes before the top of the hour." Welcome back to the Illegal Curve post-game show. Drew Mandel, Dave Manouk with you on this Saturday. Going to be a busy day. Of course, today we had the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, which Dave M. helmed earlier this morning. Did a fantastic job about that with our buddy Jim Toth, and then again tomorrow with the Jets and the Wild. So again, with the injury to Kaprizov, there's going to be, let's assume for argument's sake that he doesn't play tomorrow. There's going to be no shortage of bad blood between these two teams, and it doesn't take much for the bad blood to grow between these teams and the fan bases and the franchises. So I think tomorrow for a second half of a back-to-back mid-afternoon start, we'll probably have a little bit more. We'll have even some additional heat to it beyond what it had this afternoon.
Did you watch the video?
It's pretty mild. It's nothing that I would describe. It happens 100 times a game.
Am I missing something? And not only that, Kaprizov literally turned around and hit Dylan the exact same way.
I don't think it's the cross check to the back or to the ribs that injured him. I think it looks like his leg tweaked a little bit, or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
I just didn't seem vicious by any stretch.
I don't know. Like, I've seen that a million times in a hockey game. I didn't. Yeah. Again, this is nothing about Jets glasses or anything like that. If it was Cole Perfetti on the receiving end of something like that, you'd be like,
Perfetti had a great game, by the way.
Yeah, no, he was really effective actually, and he was frustrated because he couldn't score. But I actually thought he played a pretty solid hockey game as well, Drew. But I'm just saying, like, if Cole Perfetti takes that hit, I don't know. I'm not sitting there. You're not screaming bloody murder. I didn't think there was anything wrong. So maybe it just caught him and it just stunned him, whatever it was. But I guess we'll hear more maybe tomorrow from the Wild. But yeah, I don't know. I hadn't really seen it, and then I just watched the replay during the break, and I didn't think that. I didn't think there was anything that was too egregious, but I suspect if anybody wants to make Brendan Dillon answer the bell, he'll happily answer that bell.
Yeah, that's right. I don't think he's going to pass off that fight to somebody else on the team. I think he'll gladly take the opportunity to throw a few knuckles, no question about it. Laurent Brossoit getting the start tomorrow for the Winnipeg Jets. Again, no surprise there whatsoever. No reason to run Hellebuck back to back in this instance. They have, of course, they'll be back in Winnipeg. Probably by they'll be back in Winnipeg. I bet you by 10 o'clock tomorrow night, and then they'll take Monday off, New Year's Day. I don't think they're practicing Monday. At least you'll know, but you know better than I do. But they haven't come out with the schedule for next week.
The Jets? No, they're not going to. I mean, I don't know that, but I mean, like after a back-to-back, I can't see them. Yeah, they'll be back on the ice
New Year's Eve, and then Tuesday the Tampa Bay Lightning come to town. So it's it's not like after Christmas where there's a couple days. It's right straight from the frying pan into the fire on Tuesday.
Well,
night.
that's what Rick Bowness was talking about previously, was that, when they were talking about getting Rasmus Kupari back into the lineup, he, because he said he's closer to Ville Heinola, and he said, look, we're not going to have a lot of practice days. So he's going to, have to get his chances to get on the ice. Now he'll still skate, but he just won't be able to practice with the team and get into battle drills and all that stuff. And so, like I had suggested that maybe he does a conditioning assignment, which of course he would have to agree to. You can't just like send a player there. He has to agree to go on the conditioning assignment. Most players, I don't think, would say no.
Right.
But again,
the lineup for that
and again, the reason why you'd say that Kupari would do it over, Heinola does it over Kupari is because Heinola hasn't played all season. Kupari, at least, played relatively recently. So
yeah,
I still think it's an effective tool that you can use if need be to get a guy some games in. But again, like I said, we'll cross that bridge when it's time to cross it.
Exactly right. A couple post-game comments before we move on to some more of the shenanigans on the post-game show. This courtesy of our friend Nino, I'm going to say our friend Nino Niederreiter. It's courtesy of Murat Atesh, quoting Nino Niederreiter on his ever-growing collection of goals from 2 feet away. Quote, "I think that's where my office is. I like to be in the paint. I try to get in there as good as possible." And that is certainly what he's done very well for the Winnipeg Jets so far this year, getting those goals from in tight. And then he made fun of himself for not scoring the hat-trick goal. That it was a beautiful setup, saying, when Scheifele gave me the last one for the third one, I guess I've got to work on those that are from a little further out rather than it being right next to the goal crease for that third one that Fleury made the very nice save on.
So it was just too easy for him, is what he's saying.
That one. Yes, that one was a little too easy. He needed it to be a little bit. He needed to be more in the dirty areas. He didn't like being in the soft ice. He liked being in the dirty areas of the ice to score. Let's a couple more things. We got to do, of course, the Tough Duck hardest hitting comment. We do that after each and every Winnipeg Jets Illegal Curve post game show.
The Tough Duck hardest hitting comment.
Plenty of discussion as of late about the Jets' power play. It did not score tonight's game, but it was more effective. And that's why we're going to give tonight's Tough Duck hardest hitting comment to Running Man. Finally liked the movement of the PP, had some good chances, just not rewarded. Not like the stagnant PP of past games. Keep doing it. It will eventually be rewarded. I would tend to agree with that. The power play looked good. It was effective in tonight's game in terms of generating scoring opportunities and generating good zone time. So in this case, I would say that Running Man is on to something, and he's also on to a victory in the Tough Duck hardest hitting comment. So congratulations, Running Man. If you can send me an email with your mailing address, send that to drew@illegalcurve.com, or you can always slide into my DMs on X/Twitter @ICDrew. All we need is your mailing address, and our friends at Tough Duck will send out a toque to you. So thanks for listening to and thanks for watching the Illegal Curve post-game show. And as a result, congratulations on your victory in the Tough Duck hardest hitting comment for tonight. So there you go, Running Man. And I think the power play was more effective, and it looked like
Running Man is behind Drew, so Running Man doesn't know that he necessarily won because he's adding comments.
Well, he's saying
now,
that
now he's caught up.
Telling him in the chat that everyone's telling him that he won.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Funny.
And then eventually he'll find out eventually. If he doesn't already know, Running Man will find out.
Well, he does know. He does know because people said nice job, Running Man. So they're aware that he just them think it's funny that he's behind us and he's a winner.
There you go. Okay. And then
some future casting.
Yes, exactly. We're in the past, we're in the present. I'm not even sure what other
Running Man, by the way, as mentioned by one of the folks in the chat. I didn't see who said the comment. Good movie.
The movie Running Man. Okay.
Remember that?
Sure. Yeah, I'm vaguely familiar with it. Not terribly familiar with it, but I knew the title was. It certainly had there was a movie by that title. No question about that. We'll wrap up as it's getting closer to 6 p.m. Eastern time, 5 o'clock back in Winnipeg, by sharing some photos of our very good friend, the clock. Let's see if I can get that up on the screen properly. Yeah, hang on. I took some photos of the clock. There we go.
You have like naughty photos of the clock, Drew? Like what's going on?
Not naughty photos, just photos of the clock. I mean, it's been great being here in Kentucky and broadcasting from Kentucky, and the clock is, of course, a very important part of the time here and the memories that we've shared with the clock over the past 10 days or so. Here's the clock. Here's one photo of the clock, and I took some other photos of the clock so that we can all gaze upon its beauty and just marvel at
very
the clock.
intense.
Well, this is all about the clock, Dave. I mean, people are here for the clock. They come a little bit for the post-game coverage, but more so just to see the clock in all.
Look what Spency wants now, Drew.
I'm looking at the clock photos right now. I can't be bothered to what Spency wants. What does Spency
10
want?
minutes till ding dong. Stretch it out.
I think we're gonna make it.
I think we got 10 minutes easy, Drew. Come on.
I'm not sure we're gonna make it those 10 minutes. We got to leave them, showmanship, Dave. Leave them wanting something more. That's
Drew,
gonna be the clock.
The audience is still here. You got to keep them.
There's me and the clock. Look, we had a nice time together.
What am I watching right now? What the hell is going on?
It's a picture of me
believe
and the
it's
clock.
a picture. If you don't think that this is going to be the screen grab of today's show, you're absolutely wrong. Because first of all, I can't wait to get the message from Ezzy going, what the hell is going on right now on the show?
Wow, there's no chance Ezzy's going to watch. He's going to follow up and watch what the hell.
Oh, it's not about Ezzy following up. It's me taking a picture of this like that and then texting it to Ezzy as we speak. This is all in live.
This
live
is
in real time, folks.
Here. Exactly.
Hell of a show.
It is. The broadcast never ceases to exist, never to get better. And there you go. Finish it off. God. We love you, clock, and we do. I mean, the clock is really. It brings tears to my. I'm getting a little teary eyed here. The clock is very special to all of us. As you can see, I drew a heart, and that's about as artistic as I can get. And then, of course, everything else. There you go. The clock will be back, of course.
I think you should name the clock, though, Drew. I mean, Disgruntled Wheat thinks that's it. The name is Ding Dong for the clock.
The name Ding Dong for the Ding Ding is what he says. I think is
Ding Ding. Sorry, Ding Ding for the clock. I'm the Ding Dong who couldn't read, but
reading is hard.
Reading is hard. But you have English problems. I have reading comprehension problems. I mean, it's not Clocktoberfest from Jack's Tunes. I mean, this is peak entertainment. I think is what I saw from the what I saw one of the people in the chat. And let me tell you, this is. Oh, someone says Matthew Thompson says it will always be Tim's clock.
Well, it is Tim's clock. It's Tim and Charlotte's clock. It's not my clock. I'm just borrowing the clock.
I don't know. People want you to bring the clock back to Winnipeg, Drew.
I'm not taking the clock off the wall. I cannot do that. I'm not schlepping a clock in my luggage along with my kids and Laura. And not that the kids are in the luggage and not that Laura's in the luggage. Christmas gifts and everything else. I'm not bringing the clock back to Winnipeg. It's more special when we do the clock.
That's true.
On occasion. Suppose if the clock was here all the time, then nobody would be that excited about it. It's got to be a once a year sort of thing when it comes to the clock. And whoever said
Disgruntled Wheat is going back to Ding Dong. So apparently my misinterpretation was actually the correct interpretation.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there you go. And whoever said that we're going to replace Ezzy with the clock, I think that's you're not doing the clock justice. Ezzy, the clock can replace two Ezzies. That's how important the clock is to the.
I do have a question though, Drew, for you, and it's not because
is it clock related?
It is clock related,
okay,
and it's not because I'm just trying to stretch out the clock for another 9 minutes. So we hear ding ding or ding dong, but when exactly did you take all of these pictures and decide to create a clock
between the second and third period?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's fine. I didn't just run and do it. I planned this ahead of time. This is a well-oiled machine. This show is, Dave.
Yeah. So I can appreciate it, but I mean, again, it's one of the highlights that people get from you being in Kentucky every year is that people see the clock and they gravitate towards the clock, and they want all things clock. So I mean,
exactly.
Good for you.
There you go. So we do love you, clock. The reason I'm not going to get the clock on the final broadcast, the actual ding dong, is that dinner is being prepared in the kitchen right now, and I think if I walked in there with the computer to show the clock, I might get stabbed by somebody who's making dinner. So I'm going to avoid doing that.
I see where you're going. But do you think we'd be able to hear the clock from where we are? Because I mean, a clock really it's a fairly loud chime.
It's a good chime, but I'm sort of buried in the corner, not in the same room as the clock. I mean, the clock did go off, an hour or 53 minutes ago, and nobody heard it. So I think that tells you that we are too far away from the clock right now. It's not 3:49 in Kentucky, or maybe it was when I took the photos. Spency, that's right.
Obviously what Spency was referencing there, Drew.
Yeah. Exactly right. So there you go. There's the clock.
Is your boy Bruce? That's a good one. As he is a clock blocker.
Yeah, he's a clock blocker is also very good. I mean, I think maybe we'll just have a clock cam. Maybe that's what we can just do from now on. I'll just get just a constant camera like set up on the clock to see what the clock is doing at all hours of the day to see if it ever does anything at least bit interesting. In any event, I was also going to sing "I Will Remember You."
Oh
by
my
Sarah
God,
McLachlan,
no
but I
singing.
thought
We've already lost enough viewers for this little escapade of you. It's a Mandela escapade or something right now.
There you go.
By
folks.
the way, what's on for dinner tonight, Drew?
I think we're doing cheeseburgers, if I'm not mistaken.
Any biscuits?
There were biscuits for breakfast.
Oh, is that is biscuits are a breakfast thing?
Biscuits are a breakfast thing. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But there were some cheese grits yesterday. Cheese grits are also very good.
I had shreddies for breakfast.
Oh,
although I actually ate it for lunch. But
some of us wake up before noon.
Some of us were doing the show and didn't want to have a full stomach, so I had to wait. I sacrificed myself to do the show with Sans on an empty stomach, and then decided to have some shreddies.
There you go. You've worked hard today. I think you've worked hard enough. You got post-game work to go do. You should go spend some quality time and do whatever you're going to do for the rest of the evening. But of course, have everyone join us tomorrow night as well.
Well, no, and I was going to say, if you want to hear the post-game comments from head coach Rick Bowness, we've of course got those up on our YouTube channel. Make sure you smash that like button. Make sure you're a subscriber, folks. Lots of you are, and we appreciate that. But I want to make sure all of you are. So if you can, please subscribe. Oh, I like that. That's going to be great. First of all, the IC tailgate, Spency bringing that out. That's just a beautiful thing. So we'll hopefully have another one very soon for you. We'll hopefully have a Boston Pizza night to announce for the new year, and it's going to be very exciting. So I'm looking forward to 2024, but I will not close things out, Drew, because I of course get to spend one more day with all the folks in 2023. It will be a Moose Day. It will be a Jets Day. Moose made a recall today, Carson Golder from ECHL. So I don't know if they're dealing with an injury situation there. They practiced, of course, while we were on the air, so I didn't pay attention to what was going on over there. And so we'll have to see what's going on. Chaz Lucius, Mark Morrison, head coach, told me, because he didn't play yesterday and folks were already kind of lamenting his injury status, but he is dealing with an illness. So he's away from the team right now because the team doesn't want to get infected. But he is fine from a health perspective, other than the fact that he's dealing with an illness. So folks were a little worried.
Not injured, just ill.
That's right. So he won't play. He's not expected to play tomorrow in the rematch with the Texas Stars. Right. But and again, good crowd tomorrow, over 7,000. If you want to you can watch the Jets game from 1 till 3:45. Join me for the post game show, and then join me at Canada Life and 2024 with Dave M. It's always gonna be fun.
That sounds like a great plan as far as I'm concerned. I want to say a big thank you to all the sponsors of Illegal Curve who make the post-game show, the Saturday show, the website a possibility, our friends at Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club. If you're looking for something to do tonight, 2 shows at Rumors, 7:15 and 9:45. And then again, 2 shows tomorrow, New Year's Eve, Sunday. There's an early show, and then, of course, there's a later show that includes party favors and countdown and I believe champagne or sparkling wine, something like that, at midnight. So 2 shows tonight, 2 shows tomorrow. Rumors Restaurant and Comedy Club, rumorscomedyclub.com. Our friends at Linden Market Dental Center, Zappia Group Realty, Betway, they're the title sponsor of the post-game show. Our friends at Tough Duck, congratulations to Running Man. He won the Tough Duck Toque. Boston Pizza will be live there coming up in January. More details to come. Seagram's, they sponsor the shot of the game. That went to Axel Janssen Fialbi's goal, the 4th goal for the Winnipeg Jets. Rolly's Transfer, and of course, Farmery Beer. If you're looking for a beer to drink over the next couple of days and going forward, we do recommend Legal Curve Lager, available at number 2 Donald Street. That's the Farmery Beer retail location. Big thanks to all of you who joined Dave this morning and joined both of us this afternoon. In case you missed any of the show, it's available, the instant replay on YouTube, and of course, the podcast edition of the show coming up shortly. For Dave Manouk, I'm your host, Drew Mandel. Happy New Year. Dave will be back tomorrow. I won't. So thanks to everyone for a great 2023. Moving forward in 2024, all the best. Celebrate responsibly. Have a great day with Dave tomorrow and whatever you get up to for your New Year's Eve shenanigans. Jets win 4-2 until tomorrow at about 3:45 p.m. Central Time. We wish you good night and good luck, and thanks for watching the Illegal Curve post-game show.
Thanks for listening to this broadcast from Illegal Curve Hockey. For more great Illegal Curve content, subscribe to the Illegal Curve YouTube channel, Follow at Illegal Curve on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and visit your online home for hockey in Winnipeg, illegalcurve.com.